You've mentioned an interest in art appreciation. Ever feel like there's this whole world out there you're, I don't know, kind of sort of glimpsing? We're going on a deep dive today into this fascinating philosophy on art from the early 1900s. It might just change how you look at art, literally.
What really gets me about this approach is how it just chucks those old school art lessons right out the window.
Right.
Remember spending hours drawing those cones and cubes in school?
Oh, yeah.
Totally pointless, this book says. Forget all that.
Yeah, this isn't about like rigid techniques or anything. We'll be looking at this excerpt from an early 20th century book, and it argues that those classic drawing exercises, they don't really get you to a place of actually appreciating art.
It's like, learning the alphabet but never getting to actually enjoy a good story. This book wants you to actually have a relationship with art, to feel that intimacy with great works.
Okay, intimacy with art. Now you've got me really intrigued. What does that even mean?
I think of it like really reading a picture, like you would a really good book. You're not just skimming the surface. You're savoring it.
So the book actually gives a method for this.
Yeah.
It talks about children meticulously studying famous paintings, like really noticing every tiny detail.
Yeah.
There's this great anecdote about a group of kids. They could remember the tiniest details of a Constable landscape, like there was a boy lying by the stream, there was even a discarded plow in the image, and all this just from really spending time with the artwork.
That's exactly it. Quality time. It's about, building a friendship. You get familiar. You start to pick up on those little nuances. It's just like getting lost in a good novel. It's about really immersing yourself in that visual world.
It makes you wonder, what were those kids being asked as they were looking at this painting? What helps them remember those details so vividly? Maybe that's something we can learn from.
Absolutely. And this idea of really looking at something closely, it's not just for kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just for landscapes either. The book talks about this woman who was just deeply moved by Corot's evening landscape. And what's so interesting is she already lived in a place just like that painting.
You'd think she'd be used to it.
Right.
So what clicked for her?
It's like we need art sometimes to appreciate that beauty we already know. It's easy for the everyday to fade into the background. But art has this way of making us see it fresh again.
Okay, so if this book is saying, forget the cones and cubes, how do they think kids should be practicing art? Are they just staring at paintings all day?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
They do encourage kids to express what they've observed through their own artwork, not by, making perfect replicas. It's about kind of taking in the essence of what they see and finding their own way to express it.
And they give some pretty incredible examples in this book, too.
Oh.
Children illustrating scenes from books, capturing animals in motion, even depicting their daily lives with so much detail. It's really clear that close observation is seeping in.
Think of it like language acquisition. When children are immersed in the language of art, they naturally start to form their own visual vocabulary.
Okay, so we've talked about reading pictures like stories, but what does that actually look like in practice? Can you give me an example of how someone who's maybe new to art might try this visual language learning? We're back, still thinking about how to really see art, using this intriguing method of reading pictures like stories.
And it's powerful, because it reminds us that art, at its core, it's communication.
Right.
Just like writers use words, artists use visual language.
Okay.
Color, composition, brushstrokes, it's how they express feelings, ideas, experiences.
And just like a good book, the more we pay attention, the more we get out of it, right?
Exactly. And this goes for all kinds of art, too. It's not just paintings.
Oh.
We're talking sculpture, photography, even architecture. It's about bringing that same curiosity and observation to any visual creation, really.
Now, I'm curious, is this just for kids, this whole reading pictures thing? Can adults who maybe didn't grow up with this method still learn to appreciate art this way?
Absolutely. It's never too late. In fact, I think as adults, we have this whole other layer. We have a wider range of experiences to draw on, and that can actually make looking at art even richer.
That's really encouraging. So it sounds like anyone can learn to read pictures no matter their age or background.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. You don't need any specialized knowledge or training or anything like that. Just curiosity, an open mind, and a willingness to really look.
Okay, so where do we even begin? If someone wants to try this out, how would you recommend they approach a work of art?
Start with that sense of wonder and openness.
Okay.
Don't worry about getting it right away. Just let yourself be drawn in by what you see.
Okay, so no pressure. Just see what grabs you. Then what?
Then Start engaging with the details.
Right.
What do you notice about the colors, the composition, the brushstrokes? Are there any patterns, symbols, anything that stands out to you?
It's like being an art detective.
Exactly. And as you're observing, ask yourself questions.
Okay.
What is the artist trying to say here? How does this piece make me feel? What story is it telling me?
I love that. Asking questions and making it personal. But you said earlier that it's like learning a language.
Yeah.
What would be an example of someone starting to actually speak this language of art?
Okay, so think of it this way. If someone is learning a new language, they might start by pointing at things and naming them. Right? In art, that pointing could be noticing a specific detail that stands out to you. Maybe it's the way the artist used light and shadow, or a particular shape that repeats throughout the piece. Then, try to put words to what you're seeing. Maybe that repeated shape evokes a feeling of calmness, or the use of light creates a sense of drama. It's about connecting those visual elements to your own personal response.
So it's like you're building your art vocabulary one observation at a time.
Precisely. And just like with any spoken language, the more you practice, the more fluent you become. What's so fascinating about this book is that it doesn't just tell you what to see, right?
Right.
It's more about giving you the tools for how to see.
So instead of just saying, look at the painting, this method is more about...
It's about equipping you with the skills to make your own discoveries.
This whole idea of reading pictures, it's really, I don't know, it's stuck with me. It's like this deep dive has given me a new set of lenses for looking at art.
It's a bit like how we think about reading, isn't it? We don't expect everyone to be a literary scholar, right? But we do value that ability to just read and understand a well-written sentence, no matter who you are.
That's a great comparison. So if appreciating art is like this kind of visual literacy, how do we exercise those reading muscles?
Just like with reading, it really comes down to practice and exposure. The more art we engage with, the more fluent we become in understanding all the nuances. And remember, art doesn't have to mean, going to museums and galleries all the time.
Oh, okay. So you're saying we can find opportunities for this kind of visual reading everywhere?
Absolutely. Think about photography, graphic design, even just the way a shop window is arranged. It's about paying attention to color, composition, light, and shadow in your everyday life. Once you start noticing those things, your whole visual world becomes so much richer.
That's so true. It's like I've got new eyes or something after this deep dive.
And that's the power of art, isn't it? It has this ability to broaden our perceptions, to make us question things, to help us see those familiar things in a totally new light.
Couldn't agree more. And the best part is, this whole journey of art appreciation, it's just beginning, right?
Right.
It's an ongoing process, like a lifelong adventure of discovery.
Exactly. So here's a thought to leave you with. What if we treated looking at art with that same kind of attention and curiosity that we bring to, say, a really good conversation? Imagine the insights and the connections that are just waiting to be discovered.
Now that is something to think about. A huge thank you to our expert guide for this amazing journey into appreciating art. And to you, our listener, thanks for joining us. We hope you're feeling inspired to see art and the world around you with fresh eyes and an open mind. Until next time, keep exploring.